Yes, indeed. Welcome into another episode of Total Hockey Now here on the Total Hockey Now YouTube channel. And that title right there, Total Hockey Now, that means everything. So that means international hockey too. And that's what we're going to do is get you ready for USA-Finland puck drop here at the top of the hour. Talk a little Sweden-Canada here in the Four Nations. And let's look ahead to rivalry Saturday in the Four Nation tournament. That should be fun with the series kicking off in Montreal last night. Over there is that Fuzzy Chris 91. I'm at Pucking Thoughts, Adam Bernard, Christopher Merez over there, my D partner. Shout out to Ant Rivera 86, who'll be back with us at some point here as he has some new dad responsibilities. But we're here to talk hockey today. Four Nations face off, and the first game last night, Chris, certainly did not disappoint.
Nah, it was fantastic. Even if you're not a Canada or Sweden fan, just like some people were saying, oh, this is a Mickey Mouse tournament and the players are not going to take it seriously and it's not going to be fun. And like, it was exact opposite of that. It was, you could see these players care. This isn't just like, this is best on best. They went out there and performed. It was a great show, great atmosphere of that building as always. And it was everything. My heart rate got a little elevated though. I don't remember the last time my heart rate broke 90 beats per minute sitting down. But it was definitely beating. So yeah, this tournament is it. There's some fun here.
Now, well, the first period of the game, it didn't necessarily look like it was going to be a close one. Canada was, not that Sweden played terribly, but Canada clearly the better team in the first period there. But kudos and credit to Sweden. They come back out in the second period. They come back from two goal deficits to force overtime there, and they had a chance. They were getting good goaltending from Gustafsson. I thought he was maybe going to rob one there from Canada because they were certainly testing him there. But Mitch Marner finds a way. Had that shot. I don't know if Gustafsson ever even saw it, and that he also painted a corner. So even if he did, he probably doesn't get it. But impressive performance by Sweden. The loss of Shea Theodore, it hurts. Travis Sanheim steps in. Thomas Harley, it seems like he's going to be flying in to be the emergency defenseman there. But one of the things I want to get into with you is Canada's goaltending, which has been much talked about being one of the weak spot of the team and arguably the weakest, goaltending tandem, grouping in the tournament here. But Jordan Binnington looked okay last night. And granted, I understand it helps when he's got the caliber of team in front of him. But I didn't have a problem with his play last night.
Yeah, look, if you watched that first period, you thought Sweden looked like the Anaheim Ducks in game 56 on a Wednesday night. Like they were on their heels. They couldn't sustain any pressure. And you're like, okay, this is like Jordan Binnington can't mess up if he doesn't face any shots. And then Sweden went into the break. They probably had the Montreal Classic at the Bell Center, 2 steamed hot dogs, all dressed. They, everybody said, hey, calm down. We're going to be okay. And then Sweden was probably the better team after that. They were solid. They came out. They chipped away from it. Binnington gives up the first goal. It is what it is kind of thing. The second one against Kempe, you can't do that. You can't give that up. Not at that point. The third one, it's nothing he could have done. So I wasn't necessarily thrilled with his performance. It was not great. And then he got to overtime. And I have forgiven him because I had some choice words for him in my living room. Some of them were also in French. So I feel like I was not having it. And then he did what he had to do, and I have forgiven him. I have forgiven Jordan Binnington for what he did in the first 60 minutes because that overtime, like Sweden wins if it's not for Jordan Binnington in overtime. We'd be having an entirely different conversation here. Sweden would have walked out with 2 points. I would have probably still been crying. So good on Jordan Binnington for standing tall when he needed. He had to make some key saves. You just don't, for him, it's as simple as do not be the reason your team loses. If other teams score goals and they just beat you, man, it happens, right? Like that third goal, Canada ices the pucks, Rally gets caught out on the ice. Canada's, I guess, fourth line if you want to call it, but tired group, they go out there, win the face-off, 2-on-1 down low, the puck gets across, it's in the net. Things like that happen. I'm not expecting him to rob it. Certain things, good hockey plays happen, but he recovered. And I still think, though, that Aiden Hill should get that start against Team USA in the next game on Saturday. That's just how I feel. I know John Cooper has said he doesn't want to go to a rotation of goalies. I don't know if he's just saying that so he can give Binnington a little bit of air and say, hey, man, don't worry about how you play. Just go out, have fun, do what you got to do. But I want to see what Adin Hill can do against Team USA. Even if he loses, right? If that game's close and he stands on his head, then you have a starter for Finland and then you have a starter for the final. But it was not solid enough from Jordan Binnington to say, hey, he can start every game until the end of the tournament. That's not what he did. He did not solidify himself. He had his moments, but the argument for me then becomes, if you were better in the regulation, right? If you were better in when you needed to be, you would have never had to make those saves. So again, he still did well. Good for him. He wasn't the reason we lost, but my heart rate was too elevated for overtime.
We'll talk a little Canada, USA later, who we think is going to get the start in net there, if it's Adin Hill or does he go back to Binnington. One last thing about last night's game before we move on to tonight's USA-Finland matchup. No surprise that Sidney Crosby just having an impact in an international game, 3 assists, star of the game there. Again, just no surprise that he's having an impact even at this stage of his career. And, Canada's a force to be reckoned with here.
Yeah, Sidney Crosby continues to defy father time. 3 assists yesterday, one of Canada's best players. There's so much skill on that team, and yet it's still Sidney Crosby that goes out there and does what he needs to do in international competition. Now, I think he's like, the last time he lost as part of any type of international competition or tournament was like in 2010. He's like 26-0. He's averaging over a point per game. He had to play the wing, right, which is not his natural position, but he went out there, was effective. That great pass, kind of spins out, gets it over to McKinnon. McKinnon fires it in the net, and you could just see that power play is going to roll. They had one opportunity, and they made the most of it. But if you get into penalty trouble against Canada, it is going to be. I don't know how they stop Canada's top power play unit. I don't even think it's possible.
And we saw some 3-on-3 last night with the extended 10 minutes there. So that was, that'll be if it goes the distance in any of these games, that'll always be fun to watch there. But yeah, late in the game, Team Canada has a ton of options there for 3-on-3. It's not even fair. But we'll talk a little Canada, United States later. The game tonight, USA and Finland here. Let's take a look at that. USA starting goaltenders here for Finland, UC Saros, Connor Hellebuck for the United States. No surprise there. Finland on the money line is plus 300, United States minus 385. If you're looking at the puck line, plus a puck and a half, plus 120 for Finland, minus a puck and a half, minus 148 for Team USA. Over in this one, total 5.5, minus 138, under plus 112. So we haven't seen these two teams play yet. We have talked about how the United States roster shapes up versus Finland. No Quinn Hughes here, but the United States has a deep enough blue line to overcome that, even though that is a pretty big loss. When you look at this, I feel like this is the one chance Team USA is going to have to make a statement game here. It's not going to come against Canada on Saturday, and after the way Sweden played the other night, that's going to be another close one. I don't know if this is necessarily a blowout, but I feel like this is a game where the United States plays comfortably, has control of the game. Finland's never that far away, but they just can't get close enough kind of deal, because they're going to have to do everything they can, especially with that thin blue line, to keep the United States at bay. I do expect maybe a lot of block shots from the defensemen here, because that's going to be one of your only ways to maybe mitigate the firepower of Team USA.
Yeah, this is a mismatch on paper, but it's not going to be a blowout. We know that Team USA offensively on the blue line and in goal are stacked. They are better than Team Finland in every way, shape, or form. But for Team Finland, the number one first thought, they have to survive the first 10 minutes of the game, because if you saw what happened to Sweden, they didn't get run out of the building. It wasn't a good period. But they were just close enough to say, okay, let's catch our breath and let's come back and let's reset. So if Finland can learn anything from watching Sweden, it's that, hey, we got to at least keep this game close. And look, Alexander Barkov's on that side, Sebastian Aho's on that side. These are great two-way players. They may not have the offensive firepower, but these are guys that, you know, I mean, Barkov's won a Selke trophy. He can play against the best players every night, and he does. So this isn't new to him. That defense group is going to be challenged, and it's going to be a kind of a committee, right? You need everybody to buy in and make sure that you're not giving Team USA extra chances. Team USA is going to get their looks, but you got to keep everything to the outside, and you got to make sure these guys are not flying up and down the ice, because for Team Finland, they cannot go right like pound for pound here with Team USA. If you get into a track meet, you will lose. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. So for Finland, it's going to be kind of like that boring New Jersey Devils style of hockey. At least that's what I'm expecting. You're going to make the neutral zone. I mean, it's going to look like downtown Montreal with all the, you know, orange cones and traffic. It's going to be a gridlock. You want to suffocate, you know, the Team USA, because let's face it, elite skilled players don't want to chip and chase the puck. That's not what they want to do. They want to cross the blue line with possession. They're not here to chip it and go and grind it out, but that's going to be Team Finland's game. They got to do that, and they got to make sure Team USA is getting pucks down deep and making them work for their chances, because Finland's going to get their looks. They're going to get them. They're going to be few, and they're going to be far in between, but they're going to get their looks. But they have to play well defensively. UC Saros probably has to stand on his head, which is asking a lot, because he hasn't really done that for Nashville. And the defensive group in front of him is probably not better than the one that the Nashville Predators have, which is saying something, because this is a collection of the best players for Finland. So it's going to be a battle. It's going to be challenging. But the longer this game goes, where Finland is either tied or right there, the more confidence they're going to have that they can maybe squeak a point out. If they go to overtime, they steal a point, they've done their job. They can leave with their head up high, build some confidence, say, hey, we can do this. We are better than a lot of other people expect us to be. But they can't get into a track meet with Team USA. And Team USA, the same thing. They cannot get frustrated if they don't find space. You're going to get your looks. You know that. Play your system. Play what you got to do. Make sure you're not giving up odd man rushes, odd man chances. Go out there, execute.
Now you look at the Finland lineup, our projected line combinations for tonight. I mean, look at the top line. I mean, that's a good top line right there. Barkov, Rantanen, and Lehkonen. They're going to lean on that line heavily. If they do get any production, you assume it's going to come from those top two lines there, with Aho, Hintz, and Laine as the second line. Now, some places have Haula, Teravainen, Armia as the third line, and Lundell, Luosterainen, and Granlund as the fourth line. And yes, as a traditional sense, that Lundell-Granlund line is absolutely going to be getting a ton of minutes, trying to shut down and keep the Team USA at bay. They probably will get more like third line minutes, and that Teravainen and Haula Armia line is going to be more of a spell the other three lines. I could see them rolling three lines for Finland tonight. Saros is going to have to stand on his head, but because I do think when you look at that defensive group there, they're going to try and block as many shots as they can. Maybe he doesn't see as much rubber, but yeah, he's going to have to, whatever he gets through, he's going to have to stop. You look at the Team USA roster there, and like, where's the lack of firepower there? No Chris Kreider dressing tonight. Look at the blue line there. They had to adjust with no Quinn Hughes. That Werenski-McAvoy pair will be certainly something to be reckoned with. Going back to Finland for a second, do you think Mikkola Lindell get north of 28 minutes tonight, or maybe even closer to 30?
They probably will. I mean, this is good. This defense looks like a traditional defense of like an NHL team. You got a third pair that won't play as much. Your middle pair just has to be good, and your top pairing is going to be out there against the opposing team's best players. And look, Mikkola and Lindell, these are good defensemen. They can block shots. They do it already. This isn't going to be different for them. They're not changing the way that they play, but they gotta hunker down. And I could easily see them playing upwards of 20, 28 minutes here. This is a short tournament, right? So you don't have a tomorrow kind of thing, right? You got to go out there. If your lungs can handle it, you're going to be out there and you're going to be doing everything you can. So the good news for Finland, they got a little bit of time, right? So there's no games on the Friday. And then, they hit the ice again on Saturday. But they have an opportunity here. But the discipline that it's going to take from this group, this is a win by committee. You need everybody to buy in to playing the system that Finland has to play. It's not going to be exciting when they have the puck. But again, I do not think this game gets out of hand. Not at this level.
Good point here by State of Survival. He says Hidge should be the third line center, or TER if you are south of the border, but center if you're north of the border. And I think that's an interesting point, because if you move Hintz to that third line, you bump Teravainen up, and then Capo Caco is the scratch here. Eric Howell has not had the best season for the Devils, maybe from an offensive point. But maybe he's going to be, maybe he's able to just step up and be more of that defensive shutdown. But yeah, I get the strategy of wanting to throw your best six out there. That does give you your best chance of offense. But yeah, I could see moving Hintz to that third line center spot, Teravainen up, and if you're going to scratch Howell, maybe dress Kako on that line. But I do like that, but I think Finland does have the best roster going forward here.
I am a little bit shocked that Kaapo Kakko's not in the lineup. This isn't a team that oozes offense, and Kakko's been pretty good since he showed up in Seattle. And, Teravainen is a good, he's not the player he once was, but he can facilitate the puck. I do think Hintz down the middle gives them even more depth at center. So that probably helps them out. And Teravainen's a good passer. Sebastian Aho is a good passer. Patrick Laine is a shooter. Let's not get it twisted. As somebody who watches him, he's not out there to play defense. He's going to be a liability. So hopefully Sebastian Aho can play defense for two. But I mean, where Laine is going to set up. He's going to be trying to, get that booming clapper. And again, Teravainen and Aho can set him up. But we'll see how it goes to it. As long as Haula doesn't cost his team anything, he should be fine. Tough decisions need to be made in tournaments like this. But again, I would have had Kakko in there. You need as much offense as you can get. Eric Haula's, you have a ton of them on that team there. Like Ryan, Lundell, Granlund can play center if he wants as well. Like there's no shortage of that. So I just feel like there are more Eric Haulas than there are Kaapo Kakkos.
So this one at 5.5, because of the way Finland plays, does that make you lean under, or do you think? Because for me, I think it's more of like a 4-2 USA game here. I mean, I know I'm saying Connor Hellebuyck's going to give up 2 goals, but I think Finland can find a way to at least get in there a couple of times. I will say this: I do think that Team USA is going to try and jump them as early as possible. They don't want to get into too much of a grinded out game, and if you can get an early puck in the net, that automatically changes things, and that puts Finland on their heels already. So I do think you're going to see Team USA come out hot and heavy.
Yes, I agree with you. I think 5.5 is. I don't expect. I have the sweet spot being 6. That's what I think it is. I think that game finishes with 6 goals. However you want to divide it up, right? Or like a 4-1 kind of thing. So I know some of the lines still have 6. If you can find it, that's where I'm saying 5.5. Just like it's begging you to take the over, right? It's begging you, and it could get there, right? There's no tomorrow for these teams. So if you're down in the third period, we're not waiting till a minute left to pull the goalie. You need to score. You need to force overtime. You need to go get that point. So if there's an empty net, the puck's going to find the back of it. That automatically usually helps push the over. That being said, again, I don't see this as a 5-6-1 game. I don't see this as anybody getting run out of the building. It's not going to be pretty at all times, but it's not going to get out of hand. These are world-class players. It's going to be a tight game no matter what, and that plays into Finland's advantage. And if Finland gets the lead at any point, good luck. They are going to, I mean, you thought it was congested before. It's going to look like one of those games. You cross the red line, dump it in, play good defense, keep everything to the outside, cross, dump, keep doing it.
I mean, that's one thing that USA does have going for them, is that they can play any style they need to play. Miller, Tkachuk, Matthew Tkachuk, any of those lines can play heavy hockey. Maybe not that second line as much, but they can all do that. Chris Kreider, he's the scratch up front tonight. Don't necessarily agree with that, even though Brock Nelson's photo looks like this is the senior international Four Nations face-off. Kudos to him for letting the gray go. Maybe that'll turn into a thing. Maybe I won't have to dye my hair, whatever's left of it in time. Nonetheless, it's going to be Brock Nelson going on that fourth line. We talked about the blue line there. Jake Sanderson is going to be the scratch, which makes sense because he was the replacement for Quinn Hughes there. So good line there. And then obviously Connor Hellebuyck in net. Are there any anytime goal scorers or props you're looking at for tonight? For me, one that I'm looking at here, Kyle Connor, plus 230 anytime goal scorer. He certainly sees plenty of UC Saros. playing in the Central Division with the Predators. He is going to be the trigger man on that line with Eichel and Kachuk. So I think he's going to get plenty of ice time too. He's on that top power play, so lots of opportunities there for him to be an anytime goal scorer at plus 230.
Yeah, I have Jake Gensel. Jake Gensel, I mean, again, we'll have to see it to know it, but he's expected to skate on that top power play unit. Team USA has two really good units. They've spread out a little bit of the skill, which is understandable because they have so much of it. But Gensel on his line is the shooter. There's no question about that. Matthews can shoot, yes. Jack Hughes can shoot, yes, but those are elite passers as well. They can facilitate the puck. Now, I'm not going to take anything away from Jack Eichel and Matthew Tkachuk because Eichel can shoot the puck. He can distribute to it. Matthew's kind of like the guy who's going to, kind of grind it out a little bit. He's going to, that's his role on that line. He's in there, go retrieve the puck, first guy in, lay the hit, try to get the puck out, let the rest of them do it. Go to the net, get in front of Saros, make life difficult. That's his role. Hughes, Matthews, and Gensel, they are out there for skill. It is like they want to possess the puck. Gensel's got a good release. You see how he plays with Kucherov in Tampa Bay. Like he's the guy that's there. He can bury it. He's not going to get a ton of shots, but there is some there. I would also sprinkle a little bit there on Matt Boldy. Again, I know it's a third line. Call it whatever you want. But if that is true, that line's going to see a ton of Team Finland's bottom four defensemen. Like there's only so much Mikkola can play in Lindell. So Boldy is a shooter. JT Miller is not. JT Miller's a facilitator of the puck. Brady Tkachuk as well. He's been cold here recently. And I don't think, again, same thing like his brother. He's the guy who's going to go into the corner, retrieve the puck. Same thing with Miller. They can throw their weight around. Somebody on that line has to shoot the puck a ton. It's going to be Matt Boldy. So there's a lot to love there. I like both those guys. Maybe Gensel a little bit more just because he's in the top six. And like I said, he's projected to skate on that top power play unit. But those two guys in my books have a good chance of finding the back of the net.
Matt Boldy plus 390 over at DraftKings right now if you wanted to jump on that. Jake Gensel, the guy you mentioned earlier, is plus 245. Some plus money there. Now, Finland a little bit tougher. We're not expecting a lot of goal scoring there. Probably only going to get one or two. Whatever you do get out of them, you're lucky 3. So maybe the goal scorer route, not the way to go because it's probably going to be. You can look at Sebastian Aho at plus 390, but I'd rather take Aho to get a point at minus 110. I think that's more of a sure thing since he's probably going to be. I mean, he will be shooting too. But you're looking at Hintz and Line. That's the line where we know Line is the trigger man. 1+ point for Line plus 120. If you wanted to get Line for a goal, he's at plus 425. So, even if you think Team USA is going to win, you don't think Hellebuck's going to get a shutout. You're getting some decent money there for both goal scorers and 1+ points for some of the top guys on Team Finland.
I would have Mikko Rantanen. He's the only, I would say, true elite goal scorer on this team. And he has that familiarity with Lehkonen, having played in Colorado. I mean, Barkov is just elite on every sense. Rantanen is also used to playing a crazy amount of minutes. So if Finland does get behind and they need to roll him out every second shift to get something going, he's going to be out there a ton. There's no question, again, on his line, he's the shooter. There's the same thing with Patrick Laine. Those guys are the shooters on their line. You need these guys to, when they have a chance, to fire the puck. So if I have to pick someone for Finland who's going to score, I'm going to take their best player on it. I know it's not the greatest of value, but you're probably getting some decent value just because of how stacked Team USA is and having to do it against Connor Hellebuck. Now, the good news is as we all remember, when Colorado and Winnipeg faced off in their first round matchup, we saw no shortage of goals in that play. So Mikko Rantanen understands that it is you can score on Connor Hellebuck. It doesn't happen very often. It's like it's something that we talk about. It's like the Loch Ness monster. It's there, but is it really? So I think there's a little bit there for Rantanen. There's better value just because of the situation around him. He would have probably been, I mean, maybe not a favorite, but he would probably been close to that, like plus 115, 120 to score a goal. and his number is shot all the way up just because he's like nobody's expecting Finland to be able to find the back of the net. And I don't think they get shut out either. I think they're going to score a goal. It just might not be pretty. It might be a little grease there.
Plus 285 for Rantanen to score. Plus 390 for Barkov to score. So yeah, if you don't think Finland's going to get shut out, there's some good value for players that are more likely to get a puck in the net there. Rupe Hintz was a guy that State of Survival talked about before. He's plus 550 to score. You're looking to just go on a safer side just to get a point with some of those guys. Barkov minus 140 to get a point. Rantanen minus 130. And then if you're looking for plus money guys on Finland to get a point, Patrick Laine plus 120, Rupe Hintz plus 110. Arturi Lekkonen's a sneaky one there too, a plus 145 on that line. He could certainly do that. Granlund at plus 190. I think he's going to be playing more of a shutdown role, but he's such a Swiss Army knife. It wouldn't surprise me to see him get maybe some love there on the offensive end. He's also going to be playing a point on the second power play unit there, so maybe that's a way for Granlund to sneak a point in. So it's, I guess, prediction time here. We're both leaning the same way here. We're saying it's a 6 or less kind of game. I got 4-2 Team USA. I think they maybe get out to a big early start and then just kind of slowly grind Finland down. But like we said, I don't think we're going to see a shutout here, and I don't think we're going to see a blowout here.
Correct. Something like 3-2, 4-2. Team USA is going to get their goals. Again, I don't think Connor Hellebuck gets a shutout here. There's too much skill. There's too much skill. I know it's not great for Finland, but they're still like, how could I say, they are still, even if you're on the fourth line in the NHL, you're still better than being on the top line in the AHL. You know what I mean? Like these are still quality guys up front. It's not as elite, but these are great players. They're going to find a way. They're going to go out there, and it's going to be greasy though, right? You're not going to beat Connor Hellebuck clean. You got to get traffic in front. You got to make life difficult for everybody out there.
I think there'll be a lot of, scuffles after the whistle or right by the whistle there, because that's how Finland gets maybe back into this a little bit here. And don't forget, everything we're saying about Finland, they may not be reading the papers or looking online or on social media. They know what's being said about them, and they're going to come out with a chip on their shoulders too here. Let's see here. Will there be a major upset in this tournament? If yes, then who is the most likely team to get blown out?
This one is easy for me. It's going to be Canada against the United States. Canada against the United States. That game could get if Jordan Binnington starts and he has the performance that he did. I'm not taking anything away from Team Sweden because they're very good. But Team USA, skill for skill. Team USA's depth up front, like the amount of skilled forwards is probably better than Canada's. But Canada gets away with it because Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, and Sidney Crosby are the best players in the world. So like you make up for that gap. Right? There is a gap to me. I feel like that fourth line with Sorelli, Konechny, it's not bad. Their job is to go out there, even with Brian Hagel, great guys. But you can see their role out there. Get pucks deep, chip, throw some weight around. It's not necessarily a 4-line kind of rolling thing. You want to roll your top lines a little bit more just because those guys are used to playing a lot and because the skill is there. Like we saw it in overtime. Like Nathan McKinnon was like, "Oh yeah, I don't know if the NHL should go to 10-minute 3-on-3." Like I was gassed. Yeah, homie, you played almost 5 minutes in overtime, and you were up and down the ice and looking off Connor McDavid. Like I'm just gonna take this shot. Which again, nothing wrong with it. By the way, that was well played. I think it was Victor Hedman in the middle. Well played. Yes. You take the shot, just maybe in a corner somewhere. I get looking off McDavid is certainly a choice, but that was the right thing to do was to shoot the puck. All that to be said, the USA skill for skill, offensively, they have it. And again, we saw Jordan Binnington at his worst. So if you're watching all these elite guys who can pick corners going out against Jordan Binnington, it could get ugly pretty quick. It could be. It wouldn't surprise me if Canada lost to the United States in like kind of blowout fashion. It would suck and I would cry, but it would not surprise me.
Why don't we got a, that's a nice segue there. You think if there's going to be a blowout, that's it. And we got Subway to Shea checking in. Our friend Ant Rivera at Ant Rivera 86 at Subway to Shea. Hi, fellas. Little THN says hi too, and go Team USA. That I agree with wholeheartedly. Go Team USA tonight and on Saturday. Now, we already started talking about. Let's talk USA Canada there. This is going to be the closest game of the tournament. USA minus 102 on the money line. Canada minus 118. These are all courtesy of FanDuel. The over here, the only game in the tournament where the over is 6.5 and not 5.5 at this point, plus 110, under that minus 134. The puck line, if you think right now USA getting a puck and a half minus 265, Canada to cover a puck and a half plus 210. So opposite of what Chris said, if you think Canada is a candidate to blow out Team USA, you can maybe get some value there. We'll talk Finland, Sweden in a minute. Let's just dive in here. It's going to be best on best. This is the, this is what Hockey Night in Canada is all about, right? If you're like my father-in-law is coming to visit and he's a sports guy, and I'm happy coming down, but I did say to my wife, like, hey, I'll do whatever you want Saturday with a smile on my face and a bounce in my step, but I need to be home by 5 o'clock Pacific for this one. I'll sacrifice some of Finland, Sweden. You got to do what you got to do. I am not missing a second of USA Canada on Saturday.
Yeah, the over there is extremely tempting. Again,
yes.
I know how again, if Jordan Binnington starts, we can smash the over here because then there's going to need to be goals. And I get that right now they're pricing in Connor Hellebuck's value as being the most elite goalie, which he is in this tournament. I'm not going to take anything away from him. But I know that the way you get past elite goaltending is you have to take their eyes away. There's not a single goalie on the planet that will say it's easy to make a save if you don't see the puck. If you don't see it, it's going in. And if Canada's going to give up 2-3 goals, they're probably going to need 4 to win. They probably need 4 or 5. It might take some extra time as well. This game could be one of those back and forths that we saw yesterday. There's going to be opportunities to score in that game. There's no shortage of skill. So to me, I would hit the over. I would probably put half the mortgage if that was over 6, because then you can get the push if it doesn't work out. But everything else there just kind of doesn't, Canada being a favorite. I'm like, okay. The puck line, I just feel like it's going to be too close. Either it's a blowout, right, for Team USA. I don't think it's going to be a blowout for Canada. So maybe you can play the alternate puck line, have USA minus 1.5 instead if you're feeling confident there. But I would stick to the goal total here. I don't think this is going to be like a 1-0 or a 2-1 game. There's just too much skill, too much.
I would agree. In terms of the total, I'm leaning over versus under here. I understand it's Hellebuck, but because you have that uncertainty of whether it's going to be, at least at this point, as of when we're doing this on a Wednesday evening, Hellebuck versus either Binnington or Hill. But yeah, I think over is probably the way to go here. It's going to be a battle, but there's just too much skill. There's up front. It's just, again, not going to be a 2-1 game there. I'm not interested in the puck line either way. Maybe if Canada, if you need an empty net goal at the end there, we'll see. But in terms of, you look at things historically between USA and Canada, when they meet in round robin play, Team USA tends to beat Team Canada. But when it matters, gold medal game or medal round, whatever it is, Canada always prevails. So, and obviously history doesn't necessarily have any bearing on what happens here, but that just seems to be how it always goes. Team USA gives you a little bit of hope, like, oh, we beat Canada. If we get them in a rematch, we beat them once, and then we get them in the rematch, and what happens? Canada always finds a way. But, and that's another thing too. How does John Cooper handle that, knowing that a rematch is, maybe he goes Binnington again because he wants to save Hill for that match. Maybe you throw Hill against Finland. That way he gets a little bit of a warm up there. And then, and then it goes to the championship. So, there's no semi there. So it's going to be that last game to the final. Maybe he's going to hold Hill for a rematch.
I think whoever plays against Team USA for Canada is going to play the remainder of this tournament. Because again, no, I'm not taking anything away from Team Finland. I get it. I don't want to, make all that fan base angry, but they're not on the same level. So unless one of those goalies has a meltdown completely, right? If you can go up again, regardless of whether you lose to Team USA, if whoever starts, if they have a strong performance, win or lose, if it's not because of them they lost, they continue the rest of the tournament. Because I can't imagine them playing against Finland and then saying, okay, well, you beat the team you're supposed to beat. Now let's go to the final where even if it's against Sweden, let's say Sweden makes it. Let's just live. Sweden proved that they are a worthy competitor. So you can't take them lightly. And that it just feels hard. So if it's not a meltdown in that game against USA, that goal is going to ride it. You're too invested at that point. You're pot committed. You've bet a ton of money on the turn. You're going all the way to the river. That's it.
For me, in terms of action in this game, I'm likely going to bet the over. I'm not betting aside. This is one I just want to watch, enjoy, hopefully text some trash talk to you in the group chat with Ant at some point. Hopefully I'm not having to be too quiet, and hopefully it's not too many one-ended messages from you. But nonetheless, when we talked about how deep Team USA is and how balanced they are, but Canada has the 3 best players on the planet. It's fair to say that Canada has a better top 6. United States has a better bottom 6 amongst the forward groups.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, you need those bottom 6 players, right? And I can't believe, like, bottom 6 in the loosest air quotes possible. You know what I mean? But you need that bottom 6 to produce, because then it's just a steady pounding of, offense. When you see no hole, it just feels like you're climbing a mountain and you're never getting closer to the tip. There's no, I guess I could kind of draw it up the same way for like baseball. When you look at a lineup and there's just no holes. As a pitcher, you're like, I don't get a breath. I gotta be elite at every single moment. I can't make a mistake, or they're going to clobber me. And it's the same thing here for Canada. You cannot give Team USA a moment. That bottom 6 for Canada, maybe they don't have the same skill, but you got to outwork them. Right. And it's hard to outwork certain guys like Vincent Trocheck and JT Miller, especially JT Miller, with how apparently his conduct, as you say, like if you're not up to JT Miller's standards, he might let you know. So you got to want to go out there and just have more will. You have to win your puck battles. You have to not be, maybe you don't score, but you cannot get scored against. You have to be the best player on that shift when you go out there if you're in the bottom 6.
Now for tonight, I think USA is going to come out strong, but conversely, against Canada, as tempted as they are going to be to go up and down the ice, I think there is going to be a feeling out period here between these two. Nobody wants to, make the mistake that all of a sudden the puck's in the net. Now you're down 1-0, 3 minutes into the game. So because of that unmatched skill level, elite match skill level, I do think you'll see a little bit of a feeling out period in the first period. Maybe go first period under on the total, but then I think, second and third period, you'll start to see some goal scoring there. So there's USA, Canada, 8:00 Eastern on Saturday night there. There will be a game earlier in the day, Finland at Sweden, they're in Montreal. Series will shift to Boston on Monday with the championship on Thursday. But now we talked about how, Finland, we'll see how they play tonight. That'll very much dictate how they play against Sweden, but these are rivals. These are teams. They've acknowledged Finland acknowledged being the little brother there to Sweden and all that. So I think if Finland has a chance to win a game this tournament, that's going to be the one. I know Sweden looked impressive against Canada last night, and it's not a knock against them, but when those two get together, it's almost like throw the numbers out the window. And if Finland is going to have a chance at maybe stealing a game, it's going to be here. I wouldn't necessarily say more than minus a puck and a half, but I could see them winning and being. I'd say over because it's 5.5, but that's close. I might stay away from that. But Finland on the money line, something I would consider.
The whole mortgage here on the over 5.5. I get it that maybe these teams aren't like their offense isn't as deep, but I mean, UC Saros has been terrible. Finland's defense has been terrible. And we saw Sweden get off to a miserable start, but they still scored goals. They went out there and this is going to be a heavy tilt matchup. It is going to be the classic European hockey. It's going to be full of skill. The puck will find the back of the net. I think this game could probably be one of those games where it finishes like it did against Canada 4-3. I think the over is there. I also think if it doesn't hit the over, that game's going to overtime, because there's just it's just this game can't end in regulation. It just can't. It's going to be that close where it might not be the back and forth pace that you're looking for, but it's going to be fantastic hockey. So I still think the mortgage goes on the over, because I mean that is crazy value at plus 146. You're telling me both these teams can't score 6 goals after having to watch again. And maybe this line moves depending on how UC Saros does tonight. And even if it does, I don't care because USA is supposed to beat Finland. But I just want to see Finland get their chances. If they don't go in, they don't go in. Connor Hellebuck stopped you. It is what it is. But if Finland gets some chances here, if they build some momentum, if they start scoring goals, then that's going to be fine. It's going to be some, game opens up. Second period, don't forget those long changes, man. I don't care how great you are. If your hockey is a game of mistakes, the team that makes the least amount of mistakes usually wins. But there's such good players. Even if your mistake is minimal, it can find the back of the net, right? We talked about it earlier. Canada, just an icing they didn't have to take. And all of a sudden, win the face-off, go the other side, bada bing, bada boom. I think that's where I'm going with it. I have the over here. I need these Scandinavian countries to not let me down.
I think we're, and again, another thing to keep in mind too with the totals is after these first couple of games get in the books, we'll have the standings a little bit. With the 3-point system, 2-point, 1-point, 0-point system, Finland loses to Team USA tonight. Sweden's already, they got a point against Canada, but lost. That can also change things too, because teams might be trying to, you might see a goalie pulled Finland down 3 goals if that's the case. And now all of a sudden an over hits because Sweden's got an easy one. So that's something else to keep an eye on too there when you're looking to make total bets heading into the weekend on Saturday with those 2 squads there. I lean under on the Finland-Sweden game, but a little too juiced for me there. So by the time we come back to you next week, we'll know who the championship's going to be because there's no semifinals. It's the top 2 teams after round robin is done. So and Chris has got his Canada jersey on there. I'm rocking Judas Priest. I guess I'm rocking England. Is that what I'm doing?
I'm just saying. I already know. You know what I mean? I know. So I will say this though: if it's a Canada-United States final, though, that final being in Boston, though, that's yeah. But again, that is going to be tough though for Bruin fans because you're going to want to cheer for Brad Marchand, and he's on the other side, and then that's. I said, man, it was tough watching Mitch Marner and Brad Marchand score goals. Some of me on the inside was like I took a moment and I was like, man, my brain is just not used to it. But it's I that may give the United States a little bit of a bump there, kind of at home, the crowd and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I know where my Lions land.
I mean, I understand the whole international rooting thing. Like me and my cousin, we both loved John LeClair as kids, but we were Ranger fans, and you couldn't like him on the Flyers. So it was like, all right, when he's playing for Team USA, we can be all about that guy, but not when he's with Philly. That was that. I remember him as a kid. You know what? For a week, love Brad Marchand for a week. You can look the other way for a few games. You know what I mean? Like that's just how it goes. Like I'm a Ranger fan. Well, when they're playing Sweden on Monday, Mika Zibanejad can go do a certain thing to himself for a game. I don't care.
It's really easy for me because there are no Montreal Canadian players playing for Team USA. There should be, but there isn't. So I get to hate Team USA fully. You know what I mean? There's no asterisks. There's no but not him, right? Or not no. There's none of that. I don't have to worry about it. I just be like, no, Canada is better in every way, shape, or form. This is our game. Remember that.
If Team USA struggles to score goals in this tournament, you can count on there being a Cole Caulfield rant on this very show next week, or maybe on the Slapshot podcast. What do you got coming up there?
We're going to dig into a little bit of the games that are happening, right? I'm going to give you we're going to do a Puck Doku. We'll see if maybe Puck Doku will give out something for 4 nations or something, kind of a little bit of a theme. Some of them recently, I do them by myself sometimes because I enjoy pain. I haven't been very good, so I'm not getting better at that. But I'm hoping that's a little bit of 4 nations, a little bit of Puck Doku, and then whatever else the world throws to me. Maybe there's a trade on on Friday. I just keep my Saturday block open for whatever happens on Friday. That's it. Somebody just set the world ablaze. You know what I mean? Just why not?
I think you're safe. Pretty sure there's a roster freeze in place, but you never know. You never know. I mean,
maybe we talk about Team USA losing to Team Finland. I don't. Maybe we, and then everybody starts panicking, starts crying. I'm in. I just want to see some chaos.
and this was something I didn't point out when we were talking USA-Finland. If Finland wins tonight, that turns the entire tournament upside down, because now Finland has points that you aren't necessarily expecting. They can beat Sweden just because of the rivalry factor. So a Finland win tonight absolutely would upset the entire apple cart of the tournament.
And then it forces them to have to win against Canada. Because if you lose Canada, or you lose Finland, even if you lose in overtime, that 1 point is not enough. Then you need a lot of wishing and praying. So I'm just here for the chaos, man.
I like how this tournament is structured, because we got a taste last night. We'll get a taste tonight, night off. Saturday will be big, and then back on Monday with another doubleheader. I will say the scheduling worked out pretty well here. And then for Rip and Riff this week, Jared Moore and I earlier this week, we put a wrap on the football season. We did some baseball cards. It was a fun time there. Go check that out at Rip and Riff. But that does it for this edition of Total Hockey Now. We did a little bit of a preview here today, and next week maybe we'll do the same format leading into the championship game. Hopefully a USA-Canada rematch, so we can go at it there. But at Fuzzy Chris 91, I am at Fucking Thoughts Adam Bernard. Be back with you next week. All new episode of Total Hockey Now here on the Total Hockey Now YouTube channel.